Hi, so this is the what are we doing this week? And we're in week 3. And so people are getting a little more comfortable in Moodle and in Discord, mostly because you're starting to use it more. I've made a kind of a decision. We've had some late start people, and we've got some people having trouble getting the textbook. And so what I decided to do was to combine week 2 and 3 because we were extending it anyhow over a 2-week period. And so let me show you what I'm talking about, and then I'll explain a couple of the resources and the activity that you're going to do for this week. So if you come down now, you'll see week 2 and 3. It'll now say week 2 and 3. No point in making a whole separate box since we're combining it. And you'll come down here, and you'll still notice, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. You still have this reliable sources, and you still have the Zoom discussion. Almost everybody has signed up for a time on Zoom. So if you haven't, jump on over to Discord to the Zoom chat channel, and all you have to do is check the green checkbox by the session you want to attend. And there'll be information about how to get connected and all of that. So the Reliable Sources project is a big project, and I experimented a little bit, and I thought I could combine 2 pieces of it. And in hindsight, I don't think that was a great idea because I think it was confusing. So the first week, the idea is play with ChatGPT. I know it sounds weird to play with things, but I was just doing that with a student. We were in ChatGPT, and I was like, write a poem about hard drives in the style of Edgar Allan Poe and see what happens. Okay, revise that. Write it in the style of Dr. Seuss. See what happens. How about write it shorter in the style of Edgar Allan Poe? You see what I mean? You just kind of keep playing it around with it and see what comes up to get a feel for how it works. And then the idea was on the Reliable Sources project is you do some topic brainstorming with it. Now in Moodle, there's that resource about prompt engineering. So if you read that first, that would be super helpful for doing this part of the project. But you're going to go through the process, and I've got some notes here about going through the process. How do you get good topic ideas from ChatGPT? Because part of the problem is you have to pick 3 technology topics, but you might not know that much about what the big ideas are. And I will say that you should pick 3 different topics. Like, don't do all 3 topics on artificial intelligence. Don't do all 3 topics on social media, on biotechnology, on whatever. Spread it out a little bit. Pick 3 different topics and try to find questions that have to do with that. So the first thing you have to do is identify the themes. Well, social media, biotechnology, artificial intelligence, maybe virtual reality. There's all kinds of options, right? So identify some themes. And you might even ask ChatGPT, what are the major themes that have to do with technology? And then you keep going through the process and come up with open-ended questions. What you're trying to do is work with ChatGPT to brainstorm. And remember, you're going to submit the transcript, so I'll be able to see the conversation that you had back and forth. So this is the process in step 1, process for developing effective questions. That's called prompt engineering in AI lingo. All right, so that was last week's kind of project. So if you haven't done that already, you have to start there. And then out of all the topics that ChatGPT gives you or that you develop with ChatGPT, you have to pick 3. And again, pick from 3 different domains. Don't pick all artificial intelligence. Spread it out. So you pick 3 and come up with a good resource or a research question. And that's something you can ask ChatGPT to help with also. But you have to look at it. You don't want to just copy and paste it. Now, you're not answering the question. Okay, that's not the goal of this. The goal is not to answer the question. The goal of this is to find a resource that has to do with that topic, a recent one. Try to find one within the last 2 years. So you'll have to look at the date, or you'll have to set your search parameters so that it's within the last year or 2. You can ask ChatGPT to give you some resources, and if you do that, you should check them out. Did it give you anything good? You can say, here's my question. Give me 5 resources that have to do with this question. 5 web pages or 5 research papers. Let's see what it comes up with. but always validate. And so you have to pick one. So come up with one source that talks about that topic, and then you're going to read it. Okay, so resource finding, or watch it. It could be a video. It has to be from a good source, a reliable source. So there's a resource for that in Moodle also. Like, how do you know it's a reliable source? And then you're going to come down and you're going to summarize the source, summarize the article, summarize the video, whatever it is. You're going to summarize it in your own words and give a citation for it. And then you're going to say why you picked that topic. So these things together are what's going to make up this paper that you're going to turn in. Okay, so you're going to give me the link to your ChatGPT discussion. You're going to, come up with your 3 topics, and for each topic, you're going to come up with a resource. You're going to summarize the resource, and you're going to tell me why you find this to be an interesting topic. Out of those 3 topics, I'm going to pick one that you're going to work on for the rest of the semester. So make them good, interesting topics, things you're interested in. So the next part was this week. So you take all of that information and now you have to format it into a Google Doc. So what I did is I created 2 templates due to popular demand. I put a question on Discord and a lot of people said, yeah, that would be helpful. And so there's an outline format and there's a narrative format. The key is make it easy for me to tell what you're doing. Don't make me try to figure out, well, did you cover this part? Did you cover, what's the introduction? What's your topic selection, pieces? Make it easy for me to figure that out. You can use one of my formats or you can make up your own. Whatever you do, you need to make sure you have all the pieces. And that's what you're going to work on this week, okay? So you write that up, and then there's some reflection questions about using ChatGPT. There's some information about how to find the chat transcript link, which is fairly easy. You're going to include that on the document. And then once you've written up your content, you come down here to the skills list and you say, okay, do I have my file name correct? Do I have my settings correct? And you can set this, if you've made a copy of this document, you can change this yourself to keep track. It's just for you to keep track. And so you go down, you check off all the things. Do I have my name? Do I have the mechanics right? Did I do spell check? Do I have a word count? Like all of this stuff, okay? So what's new on the reliable sources is I've added a couple of templates and hopefully explained part of it. Last week was playing with the AI. This week is writing up, doing a little bit of research and writing up your findings and then checking off the word skills list. So that's kind of new, the template. But let me go up here. The thing I'm adding this week is a really interesting discussion came across my plate. And so up for discussion, academic AI policies. We're going to talk about this in Zoom. This will be one of our topics, but there's something you have to send me before the Zoom session. And you're going to send it to me on your notes channel. So if you open this up, it's got a little intro. And then you're going to send me a note saying AI discussion, and you're going to respond to these questions. Mostly I want to know what you think. So I'm going to jump over to the Google Doc here. And pretty much this it was a discussion on AI policies, which is very common. Schools from, elementary schools to graduate schools all over the country and probably all over the world are talking about what do we do with ChatGPT. Now here's my disclaimer. This is not an English class. So you should follow the policy that your professor in specific classes wants you to use. And that's normally in the syllabus. Now these AI policies are new, so it might not be in the syllabus yet. Okay. But in this class, this is an experimental class. And so in this class, we're not going to ignore it. We're going to use it and find out what is it good for. But you have to disclose that you've used it. Okay? And that's the key. So you have to submit the transcripts when you use it. So what I have here is a couple of different policy options that could be put in a syllabus. So there's a couple for if the instructor wants to prohibit the use of AI generated content. Then there's a couple if There's flexible use, like there's some cases where you could use it and some cases where you can't. And then there's kind of a simplified version that covers all of it. So those are the policy statements. And then there's a section that has a discussion. And I tried to take out all the identifying information because that doesn't even matter. There's some really good arguments that are pro, and there's some really good arguments that are con. I think they're all very well stated arguments. I just want you to read through this. And then what you're going to do, and then this is an interesting one because this has to do in legal practices, like if you're a lawyer, what's the policy or what should the policy be about using artificially generated verbiage in your legal documents. So this is just a statement about what somebody thinks about that. Anyhow, so you're going to read through that, and then you're going to come back to Moodle and look at those questions that I put in there. Basically, like, you know, what do you think about this? And just send me a paragraph or so on Discord and let me know what you think. All right, so the final thing on here is, let's go to the schedule. And you're going to notice that I revised the schedule a little bit. So week 3 says AI continued, and I truncated the social media section. So we'll see how that works out. But we're going to continue, and this week we're going to discuss in Zoom using AI policies, and building networks. So that's our goal for this week. Now, I'm going to go back to Moodle for a second, and I'm going to explain one thing, and then I'm going to let you go. You might be saying, like, why do we do all these projects? Like, what is the point of all these projects? Why can't we just read the book and take a test? That's a really good question. Let's see if I can give you a reasonably good answer. So here's an illustration. So, and I'm sorry, this is like mirrored weird. So this is the Betty Crocker cookbook. This is a great cookbook. This is an old cookbook. It's got lots of recipes in it, how to make things. So I could just open this cookbook up and I could read, oh, here's eggs and cheese. How to make, what's something good here? 3 cheese tortellini. Ah, so good. Tortellini, little pasta things. They kind of loop around and they got stuffing in them. 3 cheese tortellini, manicotti, mac and cheese. I clearly hit my page. Anyhow, so it's got all the ingredients, right? And I can read through this. It's got the ingredients. It's got the process. Tells me how many servings, so I can kind of, you know, adjust if I need to. So if I handed you this book and I said, read this book, I'm going to give you a quiz on how to make manicotti, macaroni and cheese, and 3 cheese tortellini by making you cook it. And you just read the book. Would you know how to make it? Like, if you read this whole book, could you make all of the recipes? Like, would you know how to cook by reading this book? I would venture to say you would know about cooking, but you probably don't know how to cook yet. What's the part that's missing? You have to try it out. You have to, like, grate the cheese and put in the milk and cook the pasta and whatever the recipe calls for. You have to try it out. And you probably have to try it out more than once, right? Because if you've been around a really good cook, like my husband is a really good cook. He doesn't use recipes. I am a fanatic about fettuccine Alfredo. He made an Alfredo one time where we didn't have any cream or milk. And if you know Alfredo sauce, it uses like lots of heavy cream and milks and things. Well, we didn't have any, but we did have cream cheese. And so he threw in a couple of blocks of cream cheese. Like, he's just throwing in seasonings because he knows how to cook. He's done it enough that he's put his hands on it and he knows what seasonings go with other seasonings and what makes things taste good. And if you use this, it changes that. He knows all of that. But when you're first learning and you just read the book, you don't know any of that. You have to smell it and you have to taste it and you have to try it. And honestly, you got to goof it up. The first time I cooked something, the first time I made orange sherbet, super good. Love orange sherbet. Great ice cream. It said use lemon zest. Had no measurement at all, and I had no idea what lemon zest was. So I found out it was like on the peel of the lemon. So I'm just peeling because more is better. I peeled tons of lemon zest in there because more is better. Mixed it all up, froze it, had my in-laws over for dinner. My sister-in-law took a huge bite of my orange sherbet with overloaded lemon zest. Not so hot. Not so good. So now I know you use just a little bit, right? Anyhow, how that all relates to the class. Same thing. We're using Google Docs. We're using ChatGPT. We're going to use all kinds of stuff this semester. And you may or may not know how to use it. Or you may know how to use it, but you're not an expert level yet. Or you might be an expert level, but there's still stuff to figure out. Like I'm an expert technologist, I feel, mostly because I know how to find out what I need to know, not because I know all the things. And so what I want you to do is take a deep breath when you find something new. Refer back to, if you need to, refer back to this, due date video. Hopefully that'll set you at ease a little bit. And just try stuff out. Pay attention to the process of learning technology because that's the only thing that's going to be constant. And by giving you a hands-on experience here, hopefully you become more comfortable and more confident in figuring out how to figure out what you need to know to do what you need to do. And you can't get that just by reading the book and taking a quiz. So I'm excited about this week. I'm excited about you playing around with ChatGPT. I'm excited to see you in Zoom later in the week. I'm just all around excited. Have a really good week.